Random House Audio presents Although, of course, you end up becoming yourself. A Road Trip with David Foster Wallace by David Lipsky. Read by Mike Chamberlain and Danny Campbell. Introduction. If writing had a logo, it'd be the anchor, the quicksand easy chair. But from the minute I shook David's hand, we didn't stop. We hit his class, then rolled into the car keys, sodas, strangers, and hotel rooms of a road trip movie. Airports and taxis, and the eerie sensation of knowing your feet have stood in different cities in the morning and afternoon. This introduction is the commentary track, which nobody goes in for until they've loved the DVD, so I'd recommend a quick select back to main menu and play movie. The road trip was the end of David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest book tour, when as a reporter I asked and he told me the story of his life. David had a caffeine social gift. He was charmingly, vividly, overwhelmingly awake. He acted on other people like a slug of coffee. So they're the 5 most sleepless days I ever spent with anyone. The last day, we crossed 3 states by air, shot down another 140 miles of highway, and I thought it was still midnight. "That's what your watch says?" David snorted. "It's 2:20, Dick Brain." Then it was over, and we were standing still again, and it was hard and sad to leave. And you'll see me trying to cook up reporting jobs in order to hang around. It has the feel of a highway conversation. Late at night, the only car in the world on icy morning roads, yelling at the other drivers. It has the rhythms of the road, grouchiness, indefensible meals, and the sudden front seat connections. Reciting high points from movies, the right song and a good view sending the radio into soundtrack. A statement that gives you the bright, runway lift of knowing that another person has experienced life the way you do. That are the stuff you go on trips for. When you skip ahead, you should know it's early afternoon, March 5th, 1996. The air has the gray, erased blackboard quality of weather tightening itself for a storm. David has just stepped out of his little brick one-story house. He has his hands in his jean pockets. His 2 black dogs are running thrilled tours of greet and patrol. He's wearing round glasses. The look beneath them says 2 more or less clear words. Now this. I've got some treasured beliefs about my own emotional tone. I'd like to think it's grittily complex, penetrating, understanding, and deeply individual. It's pretty obviously, please be impressed by me. At our first big conversation, our first stunning meal, Chicago-style pizza, the cheese mound and topping landslide. He'll tell me he wants to do a profile of the reporters who've come stamping through, doing profiles about him. It'd be a way for me to get some of the control back, he'll say. Because if you wanted, you're going to be able to shape this essentially how you want. And that, to me, is extremely disturbing. It would have been one of the deluxe internal surveys he specialized in. The unedited camera, the feed before the director in the van starts making cuts and choices. The comedy of a brain so big, careful, and kind, it keeps tripping over its own lumps. That's what this book would like to be. It's the one way of writing about him I don't think David would have hated. So it's 2 in the afternoon. I've just dropped my bag on his living room carpet, which is a mess, but the mess feels hospital-cornered, curated. Whatever reassurance and encouragement the decorations give him is going to be tagged and sifted for what it might explain publicly. We've addressed the 2 women's magazines on his counter. David is a Cosmopolitan subscriber. He says reading I've Cheated, Should I Tell? A bunch of times a year is fundamentally soothing to the nervous system. I've also been surprised to find The Towel of Barney, The Purple Dinosaur, and Befriender of Children subbing as a curtain in his bedroom, and the big poster of Complaint Singer Alanis Morissette on his wall. I've just unpeeled and loaded a Maxell cassette into my recorder. Always a pleasant, blameless moment to the journalist. Around in the chamber, boots polished, reporting for duty. I got up at 5 this morning, hailed a cab at the New York hour when the city is still drifting through sleep, the streets rolling over and steam drizzling upward out of the manholes. Then I flew 2 hours to Chicago, signed and initialed for the rental car, drove another 2 here. If you were putting us in a comic book panel, you'd draw motion lines coming off my body. And there'd be black scrunches over David's head. He's been touring for 2 weeks, reading, signing, promoting. He's walking toward me over the clumps and vines of unsorted travel memories, signaling from behind the hurricane fence of someone who's become bewilderingly famous. I'm 30 years old, he's 34. We both have long hair. I've just placed the tape recorder on top of his magazines. He's made a request. What with all the travel, he'd like the right to retract anything that might come off awkward or nasty. He's about to say 100 unbelievably honest, personal things. The one place he'll get cold feet is where he feels he's been a little uncharitable to poetry. The form will touch readers again once it focuses on 9 to 5 and couples who spend a marriage in the same bed. The verb he used was meteor. Otherwise, this book runs from the minute I turn on the recorder, through 5 days of diners, arguments, on-ramps, friends, a reading, a faraway mall, his dogs, up to the last word David said to me. It's a word that meant a great, complicated amount to him. After he died, I read through this week again. I was surprised and moved. It seemed very much like him, to see that he used it in the context of a dance. Preface. Because I'd like to clear the set as quickly as possible, the rest of what I have to say about David I've put in the afterword. Important stuff. What he looked like, how he died, how his friends saw him, the people we both were when we met. He'd just come off a success so giant-sized it was going to shade and determine the rest of his life, and we're going to talk a lot about that. 4 years later, after reporting on the 2000 election, he'd ask his agent to send the piece to his editor, to show that I'm still capable of good work. My own insecurities, I know. I've published 2 books, am about to publish another, but I've never had a success. The experience has been all near misses, standing in a crowd while people around me are pegged by golden bullets. And that professional position has led to an interesting social approach. I believe that if I can't impress people by how much I've accomplished, I can maybe be impressive with how practical my ambitions are, how little I expect. So I'm always reminding David, while he jumps ahead to big and speculative things, about the small, reliable pleasures. A good night of TV, a closed deal, a morning coffee. That's one of our arguments. He wants something better than he has. I want precisely what he has already, and also for him to see how unimprovable his situation is. That's all in the afterword. David will make a funny remark about how books work toward the end of our time together. Infinite jest, he'll say, it's divided into chunks. There are sort of obvious closures or last lines that make it pretty clear that you're supposed to go have a cigar or something, come back later. When you hit one of those cigar breaks, listen to the afterword. Because I love David's work, what I like best about these 5 days is that it sounds like David's writing. He was such a natural writer, he could talk in prose. For me, this has the magic of watching a guy in a business suit, big headphones, step into a gym and sink 50 foul shots in a row. This is what David was like at 34. What he calls all the French curls and crazy circles at one of the moments when the world opens up to you. And here's a guide to the people he's going to be talking about. Bonnie Nadell is his agent. Cool, motherly,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?